Before we get into anything else, I have to clarify that I'm not wearing the same shirt as however long ago the other. It filmed this immediately after. So that's hello. I'm Sasan. This is Proteus Debate Academy. And I won't go into as long a spiel on what this is and what we do, but I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're here. Here is what I want to talk about today. It's why you should give less feedback. That's a really unintuitive thing. I work with I work at a nonprofit called the Brooklyn Debate League. We work with a lot of different schools. We have a lot of different students, and we are trying to help these students improve. And there's coaches that work within the BDL, and there's people who we have come judge scrimmages for us. There's people who we ask as a favor to come work with a student for a little bit, right? And I think a lot of the sentiment behind that is to try to give a student as much feedback as they possibly can get so that they can improve. And this is a conversation that I have a lot or want to have a lot at the BDL. There's a movie channel called Every Frame a Painting that made like video essays on video editing, and it's the best film video essay channel. And the people who made it said the reason they made it is because they worked in the industry and they were trying to talk about these concepts to people but didn't have a way of explaining it to them. And so this is partly me trying to make the case for explaining this because it's so unintuitive. But I think I'm right. So let's get into it, right? Why do we give feedback? Feedback should act as a stage monitor. So if you're not familiar with the way like live music works, when you're playing on stage, you have some like amplifiers and stuff behind you, but mainly, especially these days, the sound that the audience hear comes from a set of speakers that are around the front of the stage, and you are actually behind that. So you literally cannot hear what the audience is hearing. And there's a little speaker facing you, and that is playing back what you are playing. Usually just you or whatever instruments you need to hear, right? But a monitor is literally sending you sound of yourself so that you can hear what you're doing and fix mistakes, adjust stuff. Otherwise, it's really hard to play a musical instrument essentially with earmuffs in and like not being able to tell what's going on, just doing it off muscle memory. So I say here that feedback shouldn't be mixed with instruction. Like, what's the distinction there? Feedback is unsolicited, and I don't mean like they didn't ask for feedback but you're giving it to them, right? But the specific thing that the feedback is about is unsolicited. In other words, they give a performance, you watch it, you decide what you're going to give them advice on or tell them what to focus on. Instruction should not be solicited. I have a video on this that I made a while ago. I'll probably make a separate video that's shorter and just for this series so that you can kind of watch it beginning to end without having to dig through our 3-4 years of older videos. But basically, debate instruction works a lot better if the student is coming to you with the question. Because then they already have a context for how they're supposed to use it, when they're supposed to use it, how it's supposed to work. They're going to go try it immediately. And it's way less effective to give people lectures on like, one day this could happen. And if they say this, you could say this. But if you said that, they could say the other thing. And if they say that, here's what you could say. But if they say this instead, say this instead. That's not really an effective way to learn, right? it's much more effective to send kids to a tournament, have them lose, have them come back, and they're like, hey, I lost because of something called a counter plan. What is that? And then you explain a counter plan to them. Or if you don't know, you look up counter plan stuff, right? But that is way more effective. So in instruction, you want them to be saying, hey, I am trying to accomplish this, and I don't know how. You give them instruction, and ideally, work with them, monitor, see if they're able to do it effectively. With feedback, they're coming to you, and they don't know what it is that you're going to be helping them with. So the goal of feedback is to make a student aware, put more conscious of, put it more directly in the forefront of their mind, something that they're currently not thinking about enough. Why? So this is going to have to kind of go big picture a little bit, right? Debate is not a contest of skill. It's not like the strongest debater wins. It's not like the fastest debater wins. It's not like the smartest debater wins, or the one that knows the most about world events wins, right? The winner of a debate round is that the next slide? I don't know. The winner of the debate round is the side that understands debate the best, but also understands debate the best in the context of what happened in that specific round. That is who the winner is likely going to be, right? And so what that means is, when you're learning debate, you're not building a skill that is built through repetition and drilling, right? It's not like running or tennis, right? Where someone's like, okay, this is the form for a good serve. Now that I taught you the form, I need you to go practice it 700 times until you can do it exactly that way every time, where you can do it on reaction, where you can do it in a few different contexts. In debate, learning the exact form that is correct is the whole sport. And by the time you get there, you're done, right? Most people don't figure out exactly how they should be approaching a debate round until a couple years after they're done and they've been judging. And that's where you get things like people understanding round vision, the most important skill in debate. I think I have a video called exactly that. Judge adaptation, understanding argumentation theory. Like, these are things that you are constantly developing and reshaping an understanding of through your career as a debater. And what that also means is, at any given time, you are wrong about your understanding in maybe minor ways, maybe in significant ways. But something about how you think debate works is incorrect. That is the most important takeaway from this, right? Because if the student's understanding of how debate works is incorrect, they're not able to prioritize their work correctly. And what inevitably happens is debaters will reach a point where their results plateau. And when their results plateau, they will get frustrated. And they will be like, I don't understand why I'm losing, or why I'm not doing better than 4-2 at tournaments, 3-3, wherever they're stuck, right? And I keep losing rounds, and they will kind of not be able to explain why it's happening. And if you, as a judge, read through their ballots carefully, you might notice a trend. But the student does not. And in fact, they can look at the ballot, read it where it says, like, whatever their issue is, you're going too fast, and it won't resonate in their brain, because their brain thinks this is an unimportant aspect of debate. And the reason why they're not doing better is there's something that is more important than they realize it is. So they'll always make the wrong choice. They will always work on whatever their strengths are and never work on their weaknesses, because their strengths are determined by what they believe deserves priority, and their weaknesses are determined by what they don't believe deserves priority. This is true of most debaters who are beyond the absolute basic level of how a debate round works, like getting introduced to debate. But once they're there, they've been going to a little bit of stuff, they know what's going on, they fall into this pit pretty much all the time. And if they understood what they should be doing and how they should be practicing, they wouldn't be losing. So anyone who is guilty of this. Like I said, they will not be able, it's really difficult to do this on your own. And other than like the emotional support, other than the social tone setting, the most powerful role a coach serves is in refocusing their debaters' attention. So even when they hear really clear RFDs, they think, like, a judge will tell them, you lost because of this. They will walk out of a round, and if you're coaching, you've seen it. If you've gone to one tournament, they will walk out of the round and they will convince themselves that there is some secret reason they lost. And I always test this with ballot review, which I'll probably make a separate video on. You will look at a round, a ballot, where it says, hey, this is why you lost. And then you ask them, hey, why'd you lose that round? And they'll be like, oh, I think the judge voted on this. And be like, okay, how did they feel about whatever? It's like, oh, I don't know. And it just doesn't register in their mind. So your job is to put their focus on the right thing. How do you do that? Well, part of it is by taking all of the focus off the stuff that they want to focus on, right? Don't give them feedback on that. They will want to know, how was my whatever? Doesn't matter. Don't care. I don't want to talk about that, right? The other aspect is, right, and this is where people go wrong. You give a student 5 pieces of feedback. Realistically, they're going to work on 1, maybe 2 of those things, right? But the 1 or 2 things that they work on isn't correlated to how important you said they were to work on. They're correlated to how important they believe those things are to work on. And like we established, their biggest weaknesses, the place where they could improve the most quickly, is also their lowest priority. And so what happens is, the more choices you give a student on where they should be working to improve, the less likely they are to choose the area that is going to have the most significant rewards, right? If they there's diminishing returns. If they keep working on where they've been working, they're going to get less and less benefit. They're going to see massive gains from working on something they haven't been working on at all. But if you give them the option to not work on the thing they haven't been working on, they're not going to work on it. And so, what's up? Yeah, that's the end of it. And so what you need to do is give them less feedback. You need to give them 1 piece of instruction and say, hey, what I want you to do is work on this. And here is what I want you to do, how I want you to do it. And with the next time you see them, you just ask about that. And they probably didn't do it. They probably didn't work on it. And you need to keep harping on that, right? And you can show them on their ballot why this is something you're talking about. You want to develop some amount of trust. That's a really, really important thing. If your student trusts you, then it'll be easier to put their focus on the wrong thing. Or at least if they understand that they cannot rely on themselves to notice these things, right? Like a musician on stage, like, cannot rely on their muscle memory to help them with an awareness of what's going on in this whole bigger context, right? They need you. They need their stage monitor. That's easier said than done. I know a lot of debaters will start out and they will very quickly feel like they've outgrown their coach. They'll be like, my coach doesn't really know anything about debate. Your coach who's a teacher who has at least a bachelor's degree, maybe a master's degree, like, you don't think they understand this academic thing at a higher level than you do? High school sophomore who's like struggled to do research on basic questions. So they feel that they've outgrown this stuff, and you have to foster a relationship with those students where they're willing to listen to you and they aren't then just immediately shutting you out and trying to go to another source, because they will sometimes. And I hope that we, Proteus Debate Academy, aren't that source, because ultimately we don't coach students directly, and the most valuable thing for any student's success is a coach. Any coach, any good faith coach. And so develop that relationship, focus their attention where it needs to be, and they will see massive improvements in a short amount of time. More videos later. Probably a different shirt. I don't think I'm going to make another one right away. But yeah, take care.